my way to work. I had to get a blood drawn this morning, so I had to wait till the lab open, so I am late. So I haven't decided whether or not I'm gonna stay late in order to so that I don't have to do anything when I get home, or if I'm just gonna just go home and not do anything when I get home. One way or the other, it doesn't matter. that's the one thing you love about being salary. As long as my product is complete, as long as I have everything in order, I'm good. But I don't know if I'm going to stay late in order to. It's some things I can do. I might stay late, especially because I can. When I'm at work, that's my best time to listen to testimony, right? On my days that I don't have meetings. So that'd be my best way of getting most of the information in. Because once I leave work, then that's why sometimes I have a gap in information, especially how the schedule is with these trials, because I'm not on the same side of the coast. In these trials start 3 hours later, and because my day starts so early, when I leave work, I have things I'm doing sometimes, and then I don't get to listen. So when I'm at work, that's my best time to listen, right? Because I have a lot of quiet time. So, but I wanted to come and talk to you guys this morning because on my way in, I'm on my way there now. I already got my blood drawn, but I'm on my way to the office now. So I wanted to come and talk to you guys this morning about this issue of the payment, right? This mystery payment. Because once again, in another trial, just like we have in the adjacent trial with Keefe D, there is an issue over whether or not Dirt paid these individuals for the crime, right? So at first I thought, that they had proof that it was a payment made. So I'm like, well, at least Dirt, he did a little bit better than Diddy, allegedly. And he paid them for what he told them he would pay them for. But there is some question on whether or not payment was actually issued in this trial. They are saying, the defense is saying they have no payment. That's what the defense is saying. Now, you guys, I guess we have to wait until the witnesses get on stand to try to find out, was there actually some form of payment? We have 3 witnesses, 3 OTF members that were part of the crime, who are going to testify against Dirt and implicate him into this murder for hire. So we have to wait and see what will these witnesses say. Now, we know that when we looked last night at the Trap Lore Clips video, the portion that we looked at, we saw huge bags of dry-backed cash, right? That means that somebody has a bunch of cash stashed in a stash house, okay? Somewhere. So we cannot be certain that there was no payment, but there's no record of payment. And maybe these witnesses are going to provide some information that payment did actually take place. Now, will the jury accept their testimony? Will that be enough testimony? I don't know. But right now, we can't say that Dirt got these defendants all in their feelings because they didn't receive payment like Keefe D is suggesting, right? like Keefe D is alleged. But we do have a situation here once again, with the dispute over, did the individuals who were hired to complete the job, did they get their money? Did they get paid? Now, this is the question. Just like there's so many parallels in both of these cases, right? So, according to Keefe D, Diddy wanted Suge. He wanted Pac, but it's not as much emphasis on Pac as it was on getting Suge, according to some of the statements that Keefe D has been making in some of these recordings that we're seeing, right? So the intended target was Suge the night of the shooting, according to Keefe D, when he's giving these statements to these various agencies and then these interviewers that he's sitting down with. It was that Pac was in the car. It would have been a 2-for-1 special, and he mentions that Diddy did make statements about Pac as well, but overall it makes it seem as though Suge was the target. In the Dirk situation, the person that they say was the target of that was Quando Rondo. In both instances, someone else is unalived as a result of this. It's not the intended target. And so does this would then become a source of contention in the backdrop? If I don't know, I told y'all, I'm starting to wonder if Diddy even had anything to do with any of this now, based on some of the things that Keefe did, the choppiness of his story. However, let's just say if it did happen that way, right? Is there some discrepancy and dispute over payment because they did not get the intended target? And is this why payment was there some argument in the backdrop because they did not get the person that they were supposed to get, right? And so is this a way that those at the top were able to justify not making payment? Now, Keefe, in some of his statements, said that Diddy said it wasn't a good time necessarily to make payment at that time because the feds were on them. The feds were on them, right? And so I can see Diddy saying that. That is something that I can see him saying, because I think that's something that we heard throughout his criminal process before, when he's on the phone and he's trying to, get these people mobilized to do things and stuff for him. He seems to think he can try to outsmart law enforcement some kind of way. He can throw them off the scent, but it also could just be a delay tactic that he never intends to pay Keefe D, because we've seen that as well. Like I said, we've seen that with several artists. We've seen that in his most recent history in the Love album, when he did not pay Little Rod, right, who helped him to produce a larger part of that album. And so he's good for like walking out and not paying people. Now, I don't know that Dirk has that history. According to what I see from Dirk, he makes good on his payments. And this is why I just assumed that they already had the payment information there. But according to what is coming out of the courtroom, sources out of the courtroom, they are saying that payment, the defense is banking on the fact that payment cannot be confirmed. But like I said, we saw them inside of the jewelry store with a whole bunch of bags of dry vax cash. And so that is not to say there was no payment transaction that took place. And we have to wait to see, what will the witnesses say about payment? How will they say? Will they say they didn't receive any payment? Will they say that they did receive payment and it was in cash? Will they have something that the prosecution can use to confirm that some type of large sum of payment was received by them? Like, do they have some type of bank deposit slip that they can show that they deposited a large sum of cash right around the time of the shooting? Do they just do a trap house transaction altogether and just leave it, their cash, inside of the dry bag in the trap house? We don't know, but we just have to wait to see what will happen with that. So I wanted to expound a little bit too, prior to me going in inside today, but so I was talking about Little Pab's mom, right? Savia Robinson. He is the one who is the victim in this case. He is the one who is no longer here. And so Armand he was on the phone with DJ Academics, and DJ Academic was pulling some more additional information out of Armand that was not part of his original commentary. And so he wanted to know what was the presence for Dirk, and Armand let him know it was an overwhelming presence and support for Little Dirk. It was almost as if like he had bouncers at the door policing who gets into the courtroom, right? Which that is very like just crazy. And these are the things, like I said, when I'm glad that Armand is there and he's at least stating it, because I always talk about balance, reporting things in a balanced way. If something like this was being done on the other side, people would take issue with that. People would take issue if the prosecution and the judge were controlling what type of media could get into the courtroom. But Armand is confirming that there is somebody at the court that is almost like out there controlling, letting content creators in who are in favor of dirt. It seems to be that people don't have a problem with that. That's okay, right? And so what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I'm just saying. And this is why I don't like to even get into these kind of arguments. I just want to process the information, whatever information it is that we get out of the courtroom, because either way, most individuals going into the courtroom have some type of bias. You just have to listen to the information in order for you to come out with the conclusions that you think are the truth, right? And so this is what our mom was telling academics on the phone. He also told him that there were, I think, about 4 individuals there that were there for Little Pab. And one of them was his mom. And so they were able to get a statement from his mom. And Little Pab's mom said, listen, whatever, I tried to raise my son to the best of my abilities. I'm not involved in any of this type of street activity. And I tried to do what I could to raise my son to the best of my abilities. And what he got himself wrapped up and caught up in once he became an adult, I had no control over. And his mom was saying, I don't have any animosity towards these individuals. If I was to see Dirk's mom right now, I will walk up to her and give her a hug. And the reality is this: real human beings that have raised kids, that have struggled and raised their children and tried to raise them right to the best of their ability, whether they raise them in the suburbs or raise them in the hood, that if they put good morals and ethics to try to have them, keep them away from this type of lifestyle, in the end, when they see something like this, it's not that they don't want justice for their child, but what does justice look like? What does justice look? And this is the thing that I was asking when we were taking a look. Hey, Cookie Boo. This is the thing I was asking when we were taking a look at the YSL trial. And I was saying, in the end of the day, Nut was doing the same type of activities that YSL was doing. And does it make it okay that he ended up being a victim of theirs? No. But how do you, as the parent, reconcile both activities? Right? Because what you have to think about, what if it was their son on your side and your son on their side? And I think that parents, decent parents, because no parent can control how their child turns out, grows up. We can have some influence, and there are some situations where, kids grow up and parents are negligent. That's a different story. But no parent is perfect. But when you have decent, good parents who have tried to do the best that they can to raise their kids and try to explain to their kids that this is not the lifestyle that you want to choose. When something happens, a decent parent, and this is just me in my opinion, is going to feel like Little Pab's mother. A decent parent is going to have that type of compassion for the fact that both of these kids, because to them, they're kids. Like my kids, they're always going to be my kids. The kids that I've helped to raise, the kids in my family that are now, they still going to, they kids to me, right? And so, and I know they're not to the world, but to me they are, right? And so we're going to always feel like I tried to teach them to stay away from this type of thing. I tried to tell them there's another way. I tried to provide opportunities to take them into another way. When this happens, I applaud people like Lil Pab's mom, because it takes a lot for a parent of a slain child to be able to look at the issue at hand and say nobody wins. Nobody wins. And the reality of this is that this is the reality, and it was a statement before Jay-Z made it famous, but the reality is nobody wins when the family feuds. And the problem within the world community, not just within our community, because oftentimes we are harder on our community than we are on the entire world system that has created these conditions, right? But the world community does not realize that we are all interconnected some kind of way. that there are only 6 degrees of separation between all human life, right? And we have to take the responsibility for one another. And we have to be able to seek justice in its proper form. And I think that people who think like Lil Pab's mom have more of an idea and will have more of an impact. I am interested to see if there is a guilty verdict. I am interested to see what her statement will be, if she gives one at all. Because knowing that that was what she had to say even before trial began, that's the type of mom I applaud. A mom who says, okay, I'm not thrilled that my son's not here anymore. I'm going to mourn him for the rest of my life. At the same time, I understand the situation that this woman's son is in. And I have compassion for her, just like I want compassion for me. Because neither of us, this is probably not the life that either of us wanted our sons to end up in this predicament, right? You have Dirk, who last night I read from the article, went from an American dream to now he's in the midst of American nightmare, right? Did he do it? Did he participate in the planning, in the orchestration? Was he at the top of the organization of this crime? That remains to be seen. This is something that we're waiting to see. So today we are supposed to get some testimony coming from some of those individuals who participated in the crime, who have decided to testify against Dirk in this case and the other two defendants. And we will become more familiar with names and places and events as the trial goes on, because those things will get engrafted into us by just by routine, right? But I made it to my destination, so I'm gonna get off here, Cookie Boo. I love you. Thank you for coming in and talking with me this morning, and I will talk to you guys soon. Peace.